So I wanted to talk this morning just for a few minutes about feeling as an object of awareness, feeling as a process happening within the body-mind, not as a developed emotion, as I'm sure most of you are familiar with. Not this combination of sensations, thoughts, and feelings, but how we initially respond to anything. Really, there's usually some sort of response, even if it's very neutral. Response to the sky first thing in the morning. Maybe there's just a little sort of lift in the mind if it's a clear beginnings of a blue sky, or a little bit of a downdraft if it's rain and wind, depending on where you live. Of course, feelings conditioned. It's not something that is dependent upon the object, but on a conditioned response to the object. So it could be that rain produces something of a pleasant feeling. So feeling's very accessible. We can all know feeling as an object. We don't necessarily need to name it. In fact, in awareness, it's quite possible just to recognize it quite lightly. Just rest with, excuse me, with the experience, this experience that we call feeling, and be curious about that. So it might be that you're familiar with noticing feeling and taking it that tiny step further, which can happen quite automatically, of working with feeling as pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. That's when feeling is working with perception. It's perception that sort of interprets that and remembers, oh yes, find this pleasant. But actually, you might notice that the mind has gone that tiny step further. You might also be happy just to rest with this experience of feeling, whatever that is. Sometimes the interpreting will happen quite automatically, in fact, a lot of the time. And sometimes when awareness is very light and available, you might just be able to experience feeling just as it is. The interpretation coming a little bit later. But the main thing is to be curious about what it is that we're calling the perception labels feeling. The particular type of sensation that we experience. Is there more to that? I think there's sometimes in practice there can be an element of accentuating feeling, using a little bit of focus, and sometimes a wanting can come, wanting to have a stronger experience of something, or see it more clearly. So intensify it in some way. Move up a bit closer to it. So those are all things that you might notice when having feeling as something of an anchoring object. And being curious about that with this quality of awareness that is quite light, it's quite open and unbiased to what it's seeing, as if it's seeing because it is seeing for the first time. In that moment, that new, fresh moment. I've been participating in an online retreat with Sayadaw U Tejaniya this week, and he's been talking a lot about being happy to watch whatever's happening. So, we know about the mind's tendency to interfere, to have some sort of an agenda. But he's just talking about being happy to have the amount of awareness that's there, and with whatever object is there, whether that's one that we enjoy being with or not. Maybe the last thing is that you might notice that feeling seems to have, or Vedana seems to have a location, seems to have a home somewhere in the body, in the chest, the heart area, the belly, maybe the solar plexus. Again, part of perception, imputing some sort of location with feeling. And we don't need to change that, but we can be curious about what's happening, recognize perception, recognizing even a small degree of conceptualizing around the experience of sensation, experience of Vedana. Dot, I think you need to mute. Yeah, that's it. It's happened. It's gone. Yeah, so we're not thinking about feeling in any of this, but just noticing in awareness, noticing the awareness working in the mind and recognizing this process. Sometimes it can be, again, it's this drive towards intensity, which is quite strong often in us, wanting to know more or have a stronger experience, intensifying what's happening. We can miss out or undervalue a whole sort of realm of experience that's perhaps a little bit less graspable even than a stronger feeling, which in itself is quite ungraspable, but a more sort of nebulous, unclear or diffuse category of experience, something that's a little bit vague, or perhaps the mind feels a bit drifting or unclear. So maybe just really allow those moments to be known. Something is happening. It's easy to dismiss and think, oh, nothing much is happening. I'll find something else to be aware of. Actually, what's happening in those moments? Yeah, we can talk about them as neutral moments, but maybe that sort of conditions the mind to be less interested. But where there's subtlety, what's happening there? Okay, so I'll leave it there. If you'd like to set yourselves up to sit.